celebrate the small wins and milestones on your journey to perfection.
Okay.
I like that because I think sometimes we forget that it's those small things that really snowball into that big win. So don't get so caught up in just trying to get to that goal.
What up, world? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the COSIGN Conversations podcast. I'm excited to be here today. We have a very special guest. We have Sheena Thomas, founder of Lengo Strategic Partners. Before we get into it, she's actually going to be a part of the COSIGN Awards this year, but we'll tell y'all that about a little bit later. But before we get started, I want you to make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to our previous and current podcast episodes. And if you like them, give us a thumbs up. But Sheena, thank you for coming here today. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. This is very special because we interviewed Mayor Rachel L. Proctor, who she'll be awarding at the COSIGN Awards a couple weeks ago, and our CMO, Emily De La Cruz, interviewed her. And I didn't tell her anything about, what our conversation was going to be about or what you do and why you're actually presenting her the award. And it was crazy because they had a whole conversation specifically about certifications. And I was like, man, I can't wait to get you in here because that way we can do a deeper dive. They talked about it a little bit, talked about the importance, but I kind of want to have this conversation because this is going to be something I feel like all of our community can take advantage of, something they need to know about. If they're not familiar, they need to learn about it and also get with you so they can get certified. So before we get into that, kind of tell us how you even got into the certification business. Is that what we call certification business?
You can call it that. Yeah. You
Okay, I'm gonna call it certification business. So how'd you get into the certification business?
Man, so I actually started back in '96.
Okay.
And honestly, I grew up in a military family. My dad was a Navy captain.
Okay. My dad was in the Army.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
I won't hold that against you. But I mean, I would come home from break from college and he was like, you need to work. Like, you can't sit around the house. And so I just started working at the front desk, like answering phones,
Okay.
greeting people when they came in the door.
Okay.
It wasn't anything big back then, but slowly but surely, I really started gaining like a passion for understanding what these entrepreneurs were going through.
Gotcha.
And they were so forthcoming with their stories, good and bad.
Right.
And so from there, I just kind of worked my way up through the agency. And I started with the North Central Texas Regional Certification Agency in Arlington. And just kind of worked my way up through there. Went on to become the executive director of the South Central Texas Agency, which is in San Antonio.
Okay.
And then came back this way.
Welcome home.
Became the executive director of the NCTRCA in Arlington. And I mean, from there, it was just, trajectory upward. I really enjoyed not only facilitating the certifications and kind of managing that process, but it really was the educational component behind why it's important to get certified and then how do you really use it in order to gain access to those contracts. And that's what spurred me to open up my business in 2016. Because in that space, kind of limited on what you can really say,
right?
Because you're working for this agency.
Gotcha, makes sense.
But my company has allowed me the freedom to really educate business owners on why they need to get certified, the importance of it, how to get it, and how to avoid getting denied. That's the main thing.
Let's get into it. So let's start off with the why. Why should we get certified? And kind of break down. I had to write it down because I was like, that's a lot of acronyms. So it's Minority, Women-Owned, Disadvantaged, and Small Business Enterprise Certification?
Yes, that's a few of them. There are 16 designations that are used in the U.S. today. So to collectively put them together, we just say XBE certification. That just kind of covers everybody.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the why, I mean, really to frame it, it's, are you currently doing business with corporations, governmental agencies? That's the first question to ask yourself. And if you are, then you need to consider it. And the reason for it is because it really is a win-win for your business. These corporations and agencies set annual overall goals. They also set project-specific goals based on whatever procurements they have going on for that year that they forecasted. And so having that certification allows them to count your contract, your invoice, towards that goal.
Gotcha.
So it's a win-win for both parties, really. So that's the main why, is to gain access to those opportunities.
Gotcha. Okay, so the other component is, of course, when people think they get certified, think access to more capital, right? So kind of talk to us about like why does that lead towards more capital? Is it because, like you said, like corporate organizations have a goal to spend more money with minority small business enterprises, et cetera? Or like how does it lead to more capital just because you get certified?
Well, it's all about the growth of your business, really.
Okay.
So if you're a new business, you've never done business with a corporation or a government entity, and you win a contract that's $100,000 out the gate, that's great, because now that positions you to then go out and be able to hire more people. It puts you in a position, if you need bonding, to perhaps be more preferable to bonding agencies. It puts you in a position to go out and gain access to the equipment, be it leasing or buying it. So that's really how that capital mechanism comes into play as a benefit to being certified.
Got you. And talk about bonding, because I'm not sure what it is, so I want to make sure our audience knows what it is. So what do you mean by the bonding?
So I'm gonna give you a high level bonding reference here. So really, when you're looking at this construction industry, that's where bonding really comes into play.
Gotcha.
And basically, it's a fail-safe net that if your company fails to perform, that the owner of that contract can then go against your bonding limit, be it $100,000, $1 million, whatever it is, and bring in another company that can basically finish the job that you could not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can use that bond to pay the next contractor, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. When it comes to those government agencies, I feel like people don't even know where to start. So would you say it's getting certifications is the first way to start to get those contracts? And then like, how do you even know where to begin to look for these type of contracts?
Right. So, I mean, the first thing is identify who you want to do business with.
Okay.
If it's the government, and government is such a broad term, if it's local government, you're going to look at those agencies, your local municipalities, the cities, the counties, your transportation authorities that are local. If you're looking at federal opportunities, that's when you can kind of get stuck in the weeds, because there are 2 federal programs. You hear a lot of people talk about the SBA.
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of folks don't talk about the Department of Transportation. And that's what encompasses that DBE, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and the ACDBE, which is that Airport Concessionaire Disadvantaged Business Enterprise designation. So you really need to figure out who you want to do business with first. And then that's going to tell you which certification you need to get. Because all of these agencies and corporations, the contracts are funded some type of way. That funding is usually tied to a specific type of certification that you're going to need.
Gotcha. Yeah. And when they get funded, is it all in up front, or is it throughout the contract period, like they spread it out? And the reason why I asked that too is because you mentioned like they could use that to hire, but sometimes they may need a lot of capital up front to secure, I guess, necessities to complete the job. Do you kind of know how they kind of like, I guess, deploy the capital for contracts?
Depending on the particular contract, I mean, there are some that are funded throughout the phase, because if you're looking at some of these long-term construction projects that are going 4 or 5 years, there may be some additional funding cycles that happen within the duration of that project. Most of your smaller term contract opportunities, especially on the corporate side, there's really only one funding cycle, because it's already budgeted through that corporation. So,
you said something earlier which kind of triggered me. You said they might get denied. So it's funny, because it's like, okay, how can you get denied if you're a woman going for a woman certification, or if you're like AFAM or Hispanic? Like, how do you disprove that I'm not Black or Hispanic, right?
Right.
So can you talk to us like why people get denied for certifications?
Absolutely. So it really is never based on you being a woman or a minority.
Oh, wow.
It's usually because you don't own 51% or you don't control 51% of the business. You either didn't have capital investment, which means somebody gifted you your ownership interest in the company. That happens a lot with married couples, especially women-owned businesses. The husband's been the one owning this business for years, and he just gifts, that extra 1% so his wife can be majority owner. The other reasons are you're not independent. So you are depending on another company for resources, be it staff, you're sharing space. you may only be receiving subcontracting agreements from this one company. So those types of things can land a company in getting denied for certification.
Okay, so let's break that down. Okay,
Yeah.
first off, why does it have to be majority? Why can't it be 50-50?
So it can be 50-50 if it's maybe two minorities that own the
Okay.
company or two women.
Gotcha.
But whenever you have what we call a non-disadvantaged or a non-diverse owner, which for all intents and purposes are going to be white men in these
Right.
programs, other than your small business enterprise program. Whenever you have that white male component, there is always scrutiny on how that ownership was initially received.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. They may try to do like some underlining things to
Yes.
to
yes.
to get contracts. So you said a gifting portion, right? Let's talk about not the gifting part, the funding. Like they're focused, or they have one client or one agency subcontractor doing these contracts for. But if you're a new business and you don't have any contracts, is that a reason to get denied, or do you have to be in business for a certain period of time?
Depends on the agency.
Okay.
So some agencies, they certify startups. Some require for you to be in business for 6 months, others for a year.
Okay.
So that's some additional research that you'll need to do when you decide which certification you want to go after.
Okay. So when somebody comes to you and they're like, "Hey, Lengo Strategic Partners, I want to work with you," where's like the phases where they start at? Can you tell them like these are the ones you need to apply for, or is it more so they need to come to you with an idea already and you just kind of like do the applications for them and walk them through the process from there? So kind of walk us through your partnership.
Awesome. So initially, my consult call with them is figuring out why they want to get certified. And then I really help them identify the right certification for them based on who they want to do business with.
So let's do this. Let's make it
Yeah.
interesting. Let's do a
Okay.
real life example.
Okay, cool.
Okay. I'm here, so I'm do me.
Okay.
Okay. So COSIGN. I'm Afro Latino, so I'm Black and Hispanic. I own 100% of my company. Who do I want to target? So we're a media company based off of entrepreneurship. So we provide community resources, events, so that entrepreneurs can come network and also meet each other so they can potentially do business. We have our own cohort and accelerator program. We do pitch competitions. We have a podcast studio. So essentially, we would want to do businesses with, I'm going to say, organizations that need media production services or partnership services. We also connect brands to consumers. So if it's a large brand and they need help targeting an audience, we can do experiential marketing. So we help them with that as well, event production. And I'm going to stop there because I can keep
Okay.
going.
Well, I mean, you really could do business with just about anybody.
True.
One of the things I would ask you is, do you have kind of a taste or a flavor for doing business on the government side versus corporations?
Yeah, I would love to do business with the government. I mean, off topic, I used to work for a government contracting agency called KBR, which I did logistics for a project in Afghanistan. So I was out there for 2 years. That's a long story. But yes, I do have experience working, but not from like actually ownership contracting side directly with the government.
Okay. So if your flavor is, yeah, I want to do both, then the next question I'm going to ask you is, are you seeking to do business with federal government agencies, with the Department of Transportation, or federal agencies, which includes everyone else, which would be under the SBA program?
And my response would be, who's the fastest?
Okay.
Who needs our services and who's the fastest?
Right. So when it comes to who's the fastest, SBA self-certification is going to get you there because you'll just self-register on System for Award Management or SAM.gov.
Okay.
That's going to be the fastest designation you'll probably be able to get.
Okay.
But when you're looking at opportunity,
Okay.
because my next question would be, well, have you done some research to identify contracting opportunities that are in these spaces already?
Okay. So that's what they need to do. Okay.
Yes.
Need to research opportunities and contracts. Okay. Let's say I did that and I found one on the federal level.
Okay.
Then what?
If you found one on the federal level, it's probably going to be too late for you to get certified in order to use that certification towards that particular opportunity.
Okay.
But knowing that there are opportunities out there, then let's move forward with getting that certification, be it Department of Transportation or with the other federal agencies.
Okay. So to take it back a little bit, where does that person go look for these?
So there are lots of places. I tell folks, if you're looking for federal opportunities that fall under that realm of SBA, go to sba.gov.
Okay.
They have so many resources, so many links that can link you to all of these different databases. Sam.gov is also a place where you can go and look at opportunities. You can look at contracts that have already been let and awarded, so you can get a flavor for whether or not an agency is actually procuring the type of services or products you're selling.
Gotcha.
When it comes to the Department of Transportation, you're looking at Federal Highway Administration, Federal Aviation Administration, and then Federal Transit. So highways, planes, trains, and subs and things like that. So going to your local agencies, like going to DART here in Dallas, that'd be a great place for you to start asking questions about opportunities that are in the realm of DBE certified contracts. So that's kind of the research that you'd have to do on the federal level.
Gotcha. Do they show how much they awarded past contracts for? Okay, that's a good question because I watched a movie. I want to say it's War Dogs. I watched War Dogs, and basically these guys started arms, guns, transportation company, and basically they awarded a contract to provide ammunition to the military, and they had no idea what to quote, so they threw out a number out there, and they underbid it by like $270 million.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they had no idea what like people were quoting or what they previously awarded that contract for. So they bid, I think they did it for like $30 million, and they said on average they were paying like $300 million for this contract. That's why they won the contract. But yeah, I mean it's a movie, but it said it's based off of real situations.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
People
Where you
underbid.
Underbid, yeah, and that's because they don't understand the market. But to your point, doing that research and finding out what contracts were previously let and what they were awarded for will help you be in the right ballpark. Yeah.
What do you say is like the one certification you would recommend to all minority women to get? Like this is at least one you have to have. If you don't do anything else, like get this one certification. What would that be?
I mean, honestly, I think if you are 51% minority owned, 51% woman owned, go ahead and get your MBE or your WBE. And if you qualify for both, get both of those. Again, as far as the agency is concerned, here in North Central Texas, we're kind of lucky because a lot of our local municipalities, they all accept the same certifications. So you can go to basically any agency and get an M or WBE and it's accepted.
Gotcha.
In other parts of, the state, that's not necessarily true. But I would definitely say at least get that. The MBE, WBE certifications are probably the easiest to get.
Okay.
If you go to the right agency and you have your application complete, the process won't be that difficult.
Okay.
So, yeah, start there.
Is there an advantage of either one? Like, some people are like, well, let me find a woman founder so I could be 51% woman owned. Is there more advantage of being woman owned than minority owned, or they both go hand in hand? Or better to be both woman and minority owned?
I wouldn't say that one is better than the other, because for women who don't qualify as minorities, it doesn't mean that them not having an MBE certification, devalues the importance of their certification anymore. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily that one is better than the other. It's really, it boils down to how well you're able to work that certification into your current business model.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
What would be a perfect example of that? Because I do understand people do get these certifications, and maybe they don't understand how to work it into a business model. Like, if you were to give them advice, what would you say to use it to your advantage or your benefit for your company?
I mean, really, you have to market it. Okay. So, I'm not saying that that's the top of your elevator pitch. Please don't do that, because as someone that has sat on the corporate side and run supplier diversity programs, the last thing that I want to hear is, I am a certified MBE, but yet I don't know the name of your business and I don't know what you do and I don't know what value you're going to bring to the organization. Yes. But make it a part of your marketing. So, include it on your website, include it on your marketing materials, put together a really good capability statement. So once you're certified, you can just email that out. Carry the capability statement with you, make it a QR code on your phone so people can just scan it. Because that's what folks are looking for. And that capability statement is a snapshot of your business. Okay. It tells folks, practitioners, what services you're in, prior work you've done, what your NAICS codes are, what your capacity is, all of that on one sheet. So
Gotcha.
that's one way that you can kind of use that certification and leverage it. Another way is put yourself in the spaces where these buyers are. That's really important. It's great to know who the president, CEO of the business is, but they're not the ones that are making those buying decisions.
Right.
So meet the people that are actually making those decisions. Those are going to be your buyers, your department leads. You do that by becoming certified, especially with the councils here. They do a really great job of facilitating like quarterly meet the buyer luncheons and things like that. So there are some perks to those certifications. But really, it's about you being in the spaces with the people that are looking for the services that you're providing. Another way that, and I tell folks this all the time because I do it, go to pre-bids. Even if they're for construction and you don't have anything to do with construction, I'm not in the construction field, but you will catch me at pre-bids. You'll catch me at construction subcontractor networkers. Because in that room are probably businesses that you can do business with. It may be as a subcontractor. You may not be doing business with that large company, but that's the way that you build capacity. And those companies are looking for businesses that they can subcontract with. For me, I'm able to identify who's not certified in the room. And you get a list. You get a list of everybody that's there. So instead of doing a cold call, you now have a point of reference when you're reaching out to these folks to basically introduce yourself and hopefully get an opportunity to have a meeting with them.
What's a pre-bid?
So pre-bids normally are held whenever an RFP is issued. Request for proposal. And it really is an opportunity for you to ask questions and learn more details about the RFP, but also figure out who else is trying to bid on this work.
Got you. Have you ever noticed, like, going to one of these events that, okay, let's say, like you said, you're not in the industry, but from one contract, which may be construction, that there's definitely different opportunities within that, construction company that they do need to outsource? And what would be some that you've identified that you were like, I had no idea that, a construction company would also need these type of jobs or contracts to be fulfilled?
Right. I mean, I'm going to say, think about it as if they were a tiny city. So when they're on this project, I mean, they're going to need consulting services that may be on the HR side. They may need some assistance with even technology. There may be some areas for you to provide them with office support, office supply services. I mean, really, the space is so wide open if you just kind of get outside of what it is that you do and figure out what the needs are. But even if you're just looking at construction services, most of the time when you go to these pre-bids, they're going to lay out what those additional sub-services are, be it masonry, electrical work, and all of that. And they're trying to unbundle these large projects so that there's more opportunity. But think of each of these large primes as a tiny city and figure out how you can get in and support them.
Okay, that's a good idea. So outside of certification, because it kind of applies to everything, what would you say is one thing you've done the best or great at to attract new business? I feel like this could apply to anybody looking to start up their company.
Really, it's just creating position in the market for yourself. One of the things that I try to do is educate. And so when I start educating people, that's when light bulbs go off, and that's when people start contacting me about figuring out what certification is and how to do it. So I do that through, several ways. I have a newsletter on LinkedIn, and I talk about supplier diversity, and I talk about some topics that a lot of organizations don't like to talk about, tokenism, and how corporations have these programs in place, but they're really just checking the boxes, and how that affects certified minority women-owned businesses. Because you've gone through this process, you think you're going to get some support or some work, and you don't. It's really kind of just a pro forma program. But position yourself as that SME. That's one way that has worked for me. Not so much just selling what it is I do, but it's showing folks how my expertise can help them gain advantage to a resource that can help their business.
Providing value. I learned that a while ago through, of course, Gary Vee during pandemic, consuming a lot of content. and you're saying provide value, and people come to you for as like the SME subject matter expert to want to work with you. So that's perfect. And I think also through newsletters, which is good about that, is that people can actually consume the content like on their time, on their terms, and then that way they can also refer back to that if they have any more questions or want to work with you. Is there anything else you do like marketing wise outside of newsletters? Do you host events, attend events? What are some other things that you do kind of to attract new business?
Yeah, I'm attending events. I have hosted certification seminars where we walk through all of what certification is and give you kind of this deep dive into the different certifications that are out there, how to leverage it, pitfalls to avoid, all of those things that the agencies really won't tell you. But yeah, attending events. I also have a YouTube channel, so I put up videos to help people that don't necessarily have the additional funds to hire a consultant to go through the process, but they really need to understand what they're getting into beforehand. So my YouTube channel, I put a lot of love into that. Recently started a podcast where I just share, some more content about certification, bringing on people that have been certified and have worked it to their advantage to kind of give you that real world, tangible experience of how to really leverage that certification. So those are some of the things that, that I've done.
Just off the top of your head, as an example right now, stick out to you somebody who really worked it well, and can you kind of share what they did?
Yeah, so I had a client. She came to me to get a DBE certification, and she's in the space of janitorial services. And she beforehand didn't have this certification to really put her in the rooms with the decision makers. And so since getting that certification, she's been able to land some federal contracts. But it wasn't just that paper. It was her understanding her business, understanding her value, and continuing to really push and put herself in those spaces with people that, even though there were competitors in her space, there were people that had contracts that were already in place. She was able to edge out kind of a corner of that market for herself. So, I attribute her grit and that certification to really getting her those opportunities. Yeah.
Nah, that's awesome. That's a success story. We also have this part of COSIGN Conversations called COSIGN Confessions, right? So even for you, I would say kind of confess to us, if you don't mind, a time you failed, because we talk a lot about success stories and Instagram and YouTube and podcasts usually are highlight reels, but let's talk about sometimes you failed in business and how you kind of bounced back and dealt with adversity to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So when I initially started, my company's gone through 3 iterations. Yeah, so I tell folks all the time, like, you wake up, you start a business, and you think this is it. The market is going to tell you what they want, what they need, So my company's gone through 3 iterations. And when I first started, I was like, well, I'm going to work on business plans as well and helping folks get their business plans together. And nobody was knocking on the door for business plans, and I was really getting frustrated. And here I am trying to beat folks over the head about getting a business plan, and that wasn't it. So I went and talked to one of my mentors, and she really lit a fire and told me the truth about myself. You need to stop doing this because it's not working. You're wasting money. I had bought software to put business plans together. That was another pitfall that I had initially, was starting out and buying software that I didn't even have the clients to pay for, but it's just in anticipation. Well, come on now. You have expenses in anticipation for clients that are not here. That doesn't make any sense. So that was one main pitfall, was, of course, the expenses that I had initially. But really, it was trying to force what I wanted to do on the market. And I decided to go through this process of kind of rebranding the company. It's always been Lengo, but I had to rebrand the company because I was out here with business plans and, I'll do certification as well, but really not pushing the fact that I was doing certification. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm going to focus on, I have certification, but I think I'm going to also focus on helping businesses really get like their systems and things in place, because that's such a critical component.
It is.
Of being able to bid on these contracts, win them, and be successful to meet the requirements. Once again, it's just like, stop, stick to what is really working for you.
Gotcha.
And certification is not sexy at all.
Right.
It's not going to have me on a private island somewhere, sipping on mimosas. That's just not what it is. It is an educational business. It really is for me. But I really had to just dial it back and realize that's what I need to focus on.
Right.
And so that is what spawned Lengo Strategic Partners, because really there was strategy behind,
Gotcha.
How I was going to engage with these business owners, but also not just taking them through the process, but how we're going to develop a strategy for you to really use the certification. So,
Gotcha. I love that story. But you know what? It's a great story. What happens to me, though, when I hear something like this is like, how did you know when to quit or pivot? Really, you pivoted. You didn't quit. So, like, how do you know the difference? Because, we live in this mentality to where it's like, you only fail when you quit. But if something's not working, how do you know, when to, like, okay, this isn't it. I'm going to stop this and try something else? Because then you see those memes to where it's like the person is going, and they quit, turn around, and they're right there by the diamond. So it's like some people get stuck doing the same thing over and over, just figuring out that they could work their way through it instead of pivoting or starting something else that's really their calling. So I would like to ask entrepreneurs, like, what's the difference in when do you know when to quit or when to pivot?
I think for me, like, the market never really let me quit because I was always having people refer to me for certification.
Right.
Always, even though that was never on my website. It was just something I'm doing on the backside. So I think for me, it was just really a natural pivot to drop the rest of the stuff and focus. Quitting really wasn't in my vocabulary. And I say that because, quick story, in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my company was like really beginning to take shape, especially around the certification piece. And I thought, well, gosh, I don't know how long I'm going to be down, and I don't physically feel well to work. So what is going to happen? And I really thought, well, I'm just going to have to shut my business down.
Right.
I couldn't shut it down going through breast cancer. So that to me has always been, Sheena, if that was not your quitting point, there isn't one.
Right.
So it really is, how do you just pivot that business and make sure that you're doing really what you're being kind of aligned to do, So
kudos to you for pushing through that. I know that was difficult. So salute to you. Salute to you. But yeah, pushing through is really how you get through. But like you said, the market will tell you. So even with COSIGN, we've been through so many different iterations, and I realized, at first when we launched COSIGN, we were doing a lot of music, but that was more so like, we like to consume music, but it's not really our space of expertise. So a lot of people were coming to us for like, business networking events. We were meeting a lot of founders, and those stories were captivating our audience. So it was like, let's just kind of pivot over here to what we're passionate about, what people are calling us for, instead of doing something over here where we just want tickets to concerts.
Right.
So it had some good perks over here, but it wasn't really working. Yeah. We didn't make $1.
It's for the love.
It's for the love. Not $1 in anything in music. But as soon as we transitioned over to business, it just kind of took off. So, if you're listening and if you're, documenting the process, you'll know what the market is telling you and know how to pivot. I think that's one thing, too. You talked about doing systems. A lot of businesses fail. It's like they don't have systems and processes in place at all, so that when they do get, some success or a contract, they're kind of in shambles. They're kind of in shambles. Do people still kind of come to you for that, or are you like, hey, I don't even do that anymore?
But yeah, I mean, even the clients that I have, we have conversations, if you win a contract, how are you going to fulfill it?
Right.
And I tell folks, sit down, get you a piece of paper and a pen and write it out and really make it make sense. What happens when they first engage with you? How are they engaging with you?
Right.
If you don't know how your clients are finding you, that's a problem because you're missing touch points.
Right.
So figure out what your process is and then figure out whether or not you really need certain systems or platforms in place to facilitate some of those. Automation is key, but automation takes time as well.
Right.
And if you don't know how to even service your clients, having a system that's automated is not going to do you any good,
Right.
because you won't know how to set it up and you won't know how to make it really work for you. So, that's something that I often talk about with business owners. Financial systems.
Oh yeah.
If you are doing your books in Excel, you need to stop. Go out there and get a system. QuickBooks,
That's what I use.
FreshBooks. I use FreshBooks because I'm a small consultancy.
Okay.
But get a system that works for you, one that you can understand, and one that's easy for you to kind of get in and manipulate on your own, because
Right.
you may not be able to afford a CPA or someone that can do your books for you. I help agencies also review applications to kind of cut down their backlog. And I go through these applications and I'm looking at these financials and I'm like, what is this? And then you contact the company and they're like, well, I don't have a financial system. Well, that's not an excuse.
Right.
And if you're trying to get certified to do business with corporations, guess what? They're going to probably ask you to provide your financials, and this is not going to cut it. So, you're not running a side hustle, like you're running a business.
Right.
So you have to act like that.
No, definitely. Are there any, I know you talked about like financial platforms, or any like system or CRMs that you kind of co-sign that you would tell people, like, if you don't have these platforms, at least get one of these? Do you have any that you recommend?
I do. So I use Dubsado.
Okay.
I've been using that for years. It really was created for more of the creator space.
Okay.
But I was able to get in there and manipulate it to work for me as a small consultancy. So Dubsado is a CRM that I use. When it comes to project management, ClickUp has been one that I've used. It's fairly easy for me. If you're doing any type of retrieval of sensitive documents, which that's all certification is sensitive documents, I use File Invite for that.
Okay.
Very cost effective. It's secure, encrypted. It ties well into any Google Workspace.
Okay.
So that's a platform that I've really loved for that. And of course, my accounting is FreshBooks.
Okay.
So those are some that I would recommend.
No. Thanks for sharing those. Definitely. Before we get out of here, we can't leave without asking you this. So you deal with certifications. You could try limit to one. You could do 2 or 3 if you want to, but let us know maybe 1 or 2 minority or diverse certified businesses that you co-sign. So it could be any entrepreneur, any business that you co-sign that you want to like shine a light on within your time here.
I would have to say, let me see. Should they be clients of mine, or is it just anyone?
It could be anybody. But if you want extra
anybody?
points, it might be clients.
Okay. Well, let me
But it
throw
could be
these out
anybody.
here. Yeah. So, the Clean Queen.
Okay.
She's a janitorial company. She does phenomenal work. I mean, I've hired her to actually come clean my home. Phenomenal businesswoman. She's also a mentor in this space for other new janitorial companies that are starting.
That's
so
awesome.
She's great. Autumn Jackson.
Okay.
Let me see another.
Autumn Jackson, the Clean Queen.
Yes. Y'all check her out. She also has another business on the side. It's a boutique business that I think she owns with her sister.
Okay.
But yeah, just phenomenal businesswoman, period. Let me see. Another certified business that I would shout out. There's so many.
I know, it's so hard when you get put on the spot.
It is. It really is. I wish you would have told me this before I had a list done. Let me see. Another one that I would shout out. I mean, they all do great things in their spaces.
Right. Maybe somebody who doesn't get a lot of notoriety that maybe they should. Like, this person does great work, but a lot of people don't really know about them.
Oh, gosh. Well, that's so many. Barclay Consulting.
Okay.
So Barclay Consulting, they provide therapy services, so counseling services for families, individuals. Dr. Barclay has a significant amount of experience. And I think that for them kind of relocating here, just being Black in this space of therapy is so important. So I would definitely want to shout her out.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm gonna try to think of one more. This is. I love all y'all. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. I love all y'all. So please know you all are valuable businesses. So blame this on my mind and not my heart because I'm really trying to.
I say that all the time. I say that all the time.
Oh goodness. Okay. Let me see if I can think of one more. My
So we
gosh.
got
Oh gosh. This
Clean
is so
Queen.
difficult. Yeah.
Barclay Consulting.
Barclay Consulting Services. I'm trying to think of someone that really could use. Oh, this is a good one. Neighborhood Ice Cream Company. So this company is owned by two Black men. They are brothers.
Okay.
And they make their own ice cream.
Oh, wow.
And it is good.
Okay.
I mean, it is very good. So Neighborhood Ice Cream Company, I would definitely shout them out. I believe that they've done some work, I believe kind of in the Fort Worth space, but you can actually buy their ice cream pops.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah. I mean, and the Belgian chocolate, yeah,
That's
it's
your
great.
one.
Yes. So those are my three. Yeah.
That's dope. Okay, before we get out of here, just leave us one last thing. Your favorite quote, and then we'll get out of here.
Oh my gosh. KG, you could have
I'm sorry.
let me know.
I like to do it off the one of the
Right.
first things that come to your mind.
Oh man. Okay. So this was actually a quote by Mandela.
Okay.
It was celebrate the small wins and milestones on your journey to perfection.
Okay.
I like that because I think sometimes we forget that it's those small things that really snowball into that big win. So don't get so caught up in just trying to get to that goal. So yeah.
Celebrate the small. See?
Yeah.
That's a perfect way to end our conversation. Thank y'all for tuning in to the COSIGN Conversations podcast. We had a great episode with Sheena Thomas of Lengo Strategic Partners. Please make sure y'all like, share, comment, and subscribe. We'll make sure we put our information down in the description as well so you can follow and get certified. Please get certified. I'm making it my purpose to make sure that COSIGN gets certified so that, we can also document the process and share our experience and our journey with that as well. So make sure y'all stay tuned and continue to live the COSIGN life, and we'll see y'all next time.